Now, as part of the government's new energy strategy, landlords will be forced to meet net zero targets within 5 years, or they will be banned from letting.
But with rents going up by more than 10%, that's, it's getting up a lot more than that in some places. Is it renters or landlords who are actually the real victims here?
Right, well, here to thrash this one out, CEO of Generation Home, that's Will Rice, who believes renters are mistreated. Abdul Kareem, on the other hand, is a landlord who thinks the government is putting landlords against renters. What do you mean by that, Abdul?
So, with Section 24 coming in place, interest rate rises and rent rises, it's all the landlords I know are finding it more difficult, if not they're trying to get out of the game because of all these changes and costs going up.
They're trying to get out of the game?
Yeah.
So a lot of people would see this as just like, manna from heaven. You sit there and it's easy money. It's easy to make money as a landlord. Not as easy as it used to be?
I wouldn't say it's easy really at all, because to get the deposit for a house, if you're buying in London, for example, that's a lot of money to tie down in capital. And if you want to get your property rented out, you need to find the tenants or find a good agency. Then you've got your tax that you need to take care of. You need to make sure the place is in good maintenance. You've got these energy costs, all these things that you need to take care of and provide a good experience.
Well, Will, I can almost hear all those renters thinking, well, you know what, I'd love to have those problems. I can only dream of, just being a good landlord. But it's tough out there for renters, arguably harder than ever.
I think it is harder than ever. It's actually brutal and really concerning that it's very difficult to see any light at the end of the tunnel. So a report came out yesterday from Zoopla that showed that the number of renters in the market at the moment, so people looking for properties, is 50% higher than the 5-year average. And the supply of rental properties is 33% below the 5-year average. So, that tells the story in itself. There's an enormous squeeze. And you ask, where are these numbers coming from? There's a pretty simple dynamic. In the last 12 months, we had net migration was around about 500,000. So the population of the UK in total grew by over 500,000 people, and the number of new properties that we added was about 200,000. And this is happening year after year. So the squeeze on available supply of property is something that has been building for a while, and at the moment there's really no signs of that dynamic changing.
I suppose a huge change in our living habits as well. Lots of people living on their own in a way that, divorces, for example, whereas people would stay as a couple in houses, often that's now 2 households, and that's much more...
That's spot on. The fragmentation of households and the nuclear family has meant that more housing supply is required for the given number of people in the overall population. So with that combined with the overall growth in population and very slow growth in housing stock, it's a recipe for trouble.
Abdul, what would your case be for needing landlords? Why, as a country, do we need landlords?
Well, everybody needs a home. And at the end of the day, if we didn't have landlords, what would be the alternative? I feel like it's very good to encourage everybody to even be a landlord, as opposed to it being landlords versus renters. How do we help renters get onto the property market? There's lease options in place where you can rent a property to buy. You can rent a property from your landlord and have the option to buy it in the future. You can get on the property market, and I feel like everybody should appreciate from the equity that there is when the property market grows. So I don't feel like it's a case of whether landlords should not exist. I feel like, how can we make it more easy for everybody to be a landlord?
Well, it would make it maybe more easy for everyone to be a landlord if the government built more social housing, wouldn't we?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I run a property management company called Ace Investment Properties, and all the landlords I know, they're finding it very hard to be in the game, as in they want to sell, they want to get out because of this Section 24. And Section 24 is also known as a tenant tax, because they've made it very difficult for landlords to deduct their interest from the mortgages, which gets rid of all the profits in the market. So when you've got a tenant in a property, you can't deduct your interest from your tax bill. And for the viewers, essentially, if you were getting rent of £1,000, the tax on that, you'd pay 40%. But you could deduct your mortgage interest of £400, and you'd only pay tax on the £600, which would leave you around £200 in tax. Now you're paying tax on the 40% of £1,000, which is £400, which doubles. So imagine you're running a business and your costs double. Not to mention the increase in interest rates of, let's say if your interest was £300, now £500. So literally all the profit is gone for landlords, and it's very difficult to be in the market. So
But, Will, there are ways to be a landlord, perhaps not well advertised, that are actually tax efficient. For example, people having lodgers, there are tax incentives to do that, and that's great for renters as well. You can get a room in a house. There are lots of big houses in London with empty rooms that aren't being used. Is that something that all of us should be considering, where everybody's a winner?
I'm not sure that counts as everyone being a winner, in the sense that, I think the vast majority of people would aspire to have private space of their own, and there's a certain stage in life where renting rooms is possibly the best solution, not just financially, but also socially. But I don't think we can look at long-term solutions that involve breaking up housing stock and turning people from tenants into lodgers. I think that structurally, the biggest challenge here, facing tenants, but also facing landlords, and there are real considerations that landlords are facing right now that make it very difficult to stay in the game, as Abdul says, is the structure of the market and the role that estate agencies and letting agencies play in the market. So if we're looking at why is it so hard to be a landlord, or why are rents so high, a big answer to that question is so much of the overall revenue that landlords are generating, the rents that tenants are paying, is ending up in the pockets of intermediaries within the market. And the market structure is so inefficient that your estate agency or letting agency is able to pocket a very large share of the overall revenue pool that exists there, which makes it harder for the landlord, but also means that rents are much higher than necessary for the tenant. So I think that the real solution here that can address the very, very serious concerns that tenants have today about their overall security in their property, by which I mean the visibility that they have on not being evicted, for example, at no fault of their own. And also the uncertainty around what kind of rental increase is coming around the corner is to really go into how do we reform the way in which rental properties are marketed and maintained, because that's a free win for everybody. That's a free lunch for landlords and tenants if we can make the market more efficient in the way that it operates.
Okay, more efficient, and essentially just build more houses. That would help a lot.
That's always going to happen.
And flats.
Well,
All
Rice,
right.
thank you very much indeed. Abdul Kareem, appreciate it. Thank you very much.